tell us, what interesting stories did you have on the street at night? A real Ted story. Back in 2020, my friends and I were working in our garage some 30 kilometers from Moscow. I needed to go back home to feed my cat and do something else, I can quite remember, so I said, okay fellas, I'll be back in a couple of hours, which, me driving a motorbike, sounded more or less plausible. Well, thankfully God accidentally turned over a cosmic bucket full of water after I drove throughout the highway, so I only had to make it through the city. Nevertheless, driving almost up to my thighs in water was a refreshing experience, in more senses than one. How on earth did the bike survive this is beyond me. These things aren't designed for breaching water obstacles. Naturally, once I was finally home, soaked to the bone, I called the guys and said I'm not coming. To which they replied, dude, you are freaking alive? No offense, but we were just drinking to your soul and everything. To anyone who might take this as an example, this was a bad idea. I was driving very slowly, like 30 kilometers per hour, and still I'm lucky to be alive, since one thing bikes can't be on a wet surface is stable. Always check the weather before a ride, and make sure to find a place to stay or return home before the shower, and for the love of God don't try to endure the rain. So, there's a place in Moscow where goths, emos and metalheads used to gather back in 2005, Chistoprodny Boulevard. So, late at night, me and my friends are strolling there, and see some jocks beating the crap out of a guy with long hair, his girlfriend in tears next to the scene. Now, I can't remember how the fight ended, but I'm sure it wasn't us since I can't remember the shit being beaten out of me. Anyway, we end up late in the evening with the guy dripping blood everywhere and his GF sobbing. Naturally, we find out they don't have a place to stay for the night. Okay, we call our friend whose parents died in a car accident several years prior, meaning, among other sad things, nobody would care if he invited two complete strangers. No, in hindsight, this doesn't sound safe or especially reasonable. Anyway, he gives us the green light, we board the metro and half an hour later emerge in this nice part of the city where there's mostly apartment blocks, meaning this is the place to be mugged unless a police patrol car drives by every 3 minutes, which is why it's more or less safe to go outside after dark in Moscow nowadays. The guy meets us at the station, accompanied by his childhood friend, who'd helped him survive the most acute period of grief, so now they were practically brothers. It's quickly decided that the bulk of the company will head for the flat head-on, while a couple of brave scouts will make a detour for the beer kiosk. The scouts ended up being the childhood friend, myself and one other guy. Once we reach the kiosk, me and the other guy gulp because there's more jocks, even meaner than the previous ones. The childhood friend is nevertheless calm and composed, so we carry on. Following his lead, we send one guy for the beer, and while we're waiting, this conversation happens with one of the jocks, the rest of them listening eagerly. Jock, hey fellas. You from around these parts? Childhood friend, gesturing us not to say a freaking word yet. Jock, and we're from Patushki. Childhood friend, very, very calmly, I've been to Patushki. A beautiful town. Now, for some context, Patushki is a legendary shithole some 100 plus km from Moscow where they moved all drunkards and bums back in 1980 so that the foreigners visiting the Olympics see only the good things. Naturally, nobody bothered to bring them back afterwards, making the town a literal den of ill repute, glorified by Arifeev in his iconic novel From Moscow to Patushki on a suburb train. Well, the jocks are visibly disappointed since we didn't get the bait, and we're allowed to leave with our phones, money, faces and beer in one piece. I believe we parted with some pocket change, more of a polite gesture than actual mugging. On our way back, I asked the guy, how the hell did you do this, mate? No big deal, he shrugged. I grew up in Solntsevo. Solntsevo was the turf of the legendary fearsome Solntsevo gang and the center of Moscow street crime, the night circle, so to speak.
I lost a friend. During grade 5 we were off summer vacation. Before that I had a friend whose name I shall not say. We were pretty close. We spent most of our grades in the same class after it broke out. Everything was good, we were chill. I also had other friends, they were cool too. But ever since summer vacation, he started to have a want to be a class leader. He was one, but he got his job lost. So he started to sit with the monitors every day. He used to sit with me always. I didn't took it that much BC, I always came late, but he just gone more and more disconnected from me. At one time he was even yelling at me for UST sitting next to him, just to see greater, my vision is bad. At that time I was what the hell? Why you doing me dirty like that, bro? But the other class leader was friends with other bad students. I don't have a problem with that though, but a specific person I don't appreciate. He is smart but extremely rude, and he also learned from him. He started ignoring me, and now I think it's time for me to make new friends. I did the same thing and lost my friends, but I won't do it again. I clearly know he just wanna be friends with him to be leader again, but SRSO, why do you really had to leave your best friend like that? I was almost on the moment of crying, but I can't. I can't tell it to my mom BC I'm a man, and I'm kinda old on 12, so it is embarrassing. I wish I could talk with him the same way again. I gonna probably forget ABT me BC I'm so boring, and I can't help it, I don't have any friends at this point, not even online, I don't have friends. All I want to say to him, thank you for the memories, goodbye for the future. I wish you well. Medical professionals of Reddit, have you ever had a patient so lacking in common sense you wondered how they made it this far? If so, what is your story? I'm a pharmacist. One evening shift I was working a relief shift, not my usual pharmacy. A man comes in looking distressed. Man, I had sexual relations with a woman I do not intend to pursue a long-term relationship with. Yes. He said it just like that. Me, okay. I'm assuming there was an accident or it was unprotected. How long ago did it happen? Man, last night, at 7 p.m. on the couch. Whoa, TMI, I just need to know approximate time to know if Plan B will work. O.O. Me, we have this medication called Plan B, and since the incident happened within 72 hours. Man, oh yes, I got that for her already yesterday right after we finished. We want to know if there is anything we can do to know if she is pregnant now. Me, unfortunately not. She'll have to wait 3 weeks or so to see if she gets her period, and if she doesn't then she can do a pregnancy test then. Theoretically you could do a blood test for faster results, but that would also not be until a couple of weeks, at least. Man, we're just really anxious because she really doesn't want to be pregnant. Is there anything that she can take to prevent the pregnancy? Any multivitamin? Minerals? Food? Me, she's already taken it, which was the Plan B. There are some other options, but those are prescriptions. And no, there are no over-the-counter products she can take. Man, what about me? Is there anything I can take now to prevent the pregnancy? Any multivitamins or minerals? Me, no sir. There isn't anything you can take now. I work in home health. At my last job, I had a lady call saying she was returning my call specifically. I don't recall her at all, and when I check for anything on her, it shows we have never received a referral or anything for her. Which I tell her. She gets mad and starts screaming at me, won't let me get a word in to tell her to call the discharge planner at the hospital. Like a good 8 minutes of her screaming at me, calling me heartless, an idiot, you name it. Whatever, it's slow and these calls are usually good for a laugh. She takes a breath. I say, ma'am, I'm not sure who called you, especially since we haven't heard of you before now. She interrupts with, no, it was definitely you. You said your name was Shelaton and you were calling from Advanced Home Health. Ah, we have detected the problem. I tell her I see what's going on. You accidentally called Ambercare Home Health. Let me get you Advanced's number. Then she says I have it. They didn't pick up the phone, so I called you guys. I was not expecting that one.
Physiotherapist. For those that don't know, after a total knee replacement, you basically have a 6-week window after the surgery to regain the range of motion. If you don't regain the range in those first 6 weeks, it ain't coming back. Had a patient who was a farmer, who was very enthusiastic about regaining the range because he needed to be mobile for his work. Saw him the first time about 5 days after surgery, showed him all the basic exercises, told him to not do any farm work for at least 6 weeks, and told him to come back to see me once a week for the first 6 weeks. He disappeared and came back about 8 weeks later. His range was non-existent, maybe 30 degrees of range in total. He was visibly mad at me, as if it was my fault, actually was shouting and calling me incompetent. Our conversation went something like this. Have you been doing the exercises?
No.
How often are you doing farm work?
Every day.
Why haven't you come back since the first appointment 8 weeks ago?
Too busy with farm work.
So to summarize here, you did absolutely nothing that I told you to, and this is somehow my fault? Never saw him again.
Subscribe to the channel. I try very hard to make high-quality videos. Also write your story in the comments and it will be in the video. In the future I want to make a section stories from subscribers where only your stories will be. Bye.